water isn't my forte, but I know you love the water, don't you?
Yeah, I used to teach swimming, and I just recently got my open water diving certification. But I only sport dive. I don't depth dive.
What's the difference?
Well, depth divers are people who go to all depths. The greatest heights, well, these people go to the greatest depths.
Oh, just like the man we were about to meet. He holds a world's record for depth diving.
His name is Neal Watson, and he lives in Bimini.
And he gave up the life of being a Palm Beach nightclub manager to move out to an island, and that takes a lot of guts.
There are many worlds in which to break a world record, and the going is never easy. But the world in which Neal Watson has chosen to make his mark is the least forgiving of all.
I right now am, I guess, the only marathon underwater distance swimmer.
A depth dive of 437 feet is only one of the world records that Neal now holds, and there will probably never be another name to succeed him.
Well, there's been 6 attempts to break the record now, and all 6 of them have died.
But for a man who relishes the glory of ocean feats, on his island home of Bimini, Neal is more noted for his love of the ocean environment and his work to save it.
I'm basically the only person that familiar with diving and the problems with the reefs. I guess I am the crusader of it.
His world has been an island for 8 years. Although Neal grew up in Florida, he's always been attracted to the laid-back Bahamian lifestyle. Here, a day of life might only take you from the hot sun to a more shady resting spot. But even though his island domain is limited to 7 miles in length and 700 feet across, Neal has found it a perfect place to call home.
Neal, what you doing, boy, huh? What you doing? I've got 2 babies and a wife and a 15-year-old daughter, and they walk the streets any time of the day or night, any part of the town, and I can't think of a better place to raise children, have a family, or a safer place to live or be. This is John D., alias Animal. That's 1 year old, that's 2 years old, and this one outweighs this one by about 6 pounds.
His barefoot freedom is in sharp contrast to his former life in the States, where he was once a Marine and a Palm Beach nightclub owner. Here, time may stand still, but not his lifestyle.
Sailor boy! Never get bored. Never get bored. I'm up at 7 o'clock. You know, you got the beach, I got my business, I got the kids. When I go to the States, especially inland, I have a little place up in the Carolina mountains, and I'm good for about 3 days there. After 3 days of no ocean, and I actually get claustrophobic. I've got to get back to the sea. Everybody ready to go diving?
Neal couldn't get any closer to the sea. He now runs the only charter dive operation on the island, where divers from around the world come to see the ocean sights that Neal lends guidance.
At a depth of 125 feet, we have a sheer cliff that drops straight down in excess of 2,000 feet. Looks like the Grand Canyon underwater. It's very, very spectacular.
Their instruction could not come from a more proficient diver, nor one who cares more about what they will see. For years, Neal has been trying to protect the delicate coral gardens that surround the island.
Well, I'm working with the government right now on establishing a marine preserve in Bimini. You know, a lot of people don't understand the reefs. A reef is a living animal. It's not a plant. It's very ecologically sensitive to the balance of nature. In a period of 5 or 6 years, without some form of protection, you could conceivably destroy a reef that's taken since the beginning of time to develop.
Neal has been diving since he was 13 years old, and his confidence underwater befits his physique. It was when he joined the military that he went for the ultimate challenge as a test for the Navy. He recreated for us his record depth dive to the fringe of human vulnerability. Neal remembers that dive held no guarantee.
You're doing a record depth, so there's nobody down there with you. If you have a problem, even if they bring you to the surface, that'll kill you. Simply either you'll embolize, your lungs will explode, or you'll get bent. So it's sayonara, and they time you, and either you come back up or you don't.
As we followed him into the depths, he warned us of the most dangerous obstacle, the effect of pressure, nitrogen narcosis.
In its mild state, it may be equivalent to like 1 or 2 drinks, but beyond about 300 feet, when you start getting severe narcosis, it's more like a hallucinogenic. And then beyond about 380 feet, you don't even realize you're in the water. It's just like a big blue void.
Neal returned to the surface that day after reaching a depth of 437 feet. It was a world record that still stands. 6 other people have since died trying to break it. He says he would never try it again, though he thinks it would be meaningless for anyone to try. He would not challenge any person who could break it.
Absolutely not. No. If somebody breaks this one, they can have it with my blessings.
Neal went on in later years to break even more records in scuba diving, not for depth, but for distance. His latest, a 66-mile underwater swim from the Keys to Miami. Neal is now practicing for yet another, a 140-mile scuba swim from the Bahamas to the United States.
I'd like to see just how far I can really go. I'd like to just push myself to the limit and see what's possible for me.
But his outlook is as easygoing as his lifestyle. Neal doesn't want the records for the fame and fortune. He simply wants them for himself.
It's strictly for my own satisfaction to look in the mirror and say, okay, Neal Watson, you've done something that no other man on earth has done, or you've done something better than anybody else on earth has done. And whether anybody else cares, or whether anybody else even has the desire to do that, it's just a certain self-satisfaction that you have in doing something like that.
Neal says he's not going to try to break his record anytime soon, but if he decides to, he has plenty of time to practice. After all, what is there to do on an island paradise besides practice your diving? Well, I guess I could think of